This is the story of a turning point in British history, when something happened that turned us into the multicultural country we see today. This is the story of the Windrush generation. Let's go! In 1945, Britain was in tatters. The Second World War had just ended, and years of fighting had ravaged the country. Britain needed to be rebuilt, but there weren't enough people to take all of the jobs. So a solution was found. Ask people from around the world to come and help. In this video, you will find out who came, what their lives were like, and why on earth they were called the Windrush generation. Back to 1945. With a desperate need for workers, the government sent out messages to the Caribbean, asking the people to come to Britain and take jobs. Back then, Britain was a global power, and many parts of the Caribbean belonged to them. The people who came to Britain were from the Caribbean, but they were also British citizens, and they were moving to the motherland. In 1948, a ship arrived in Britain, carrying over 1,000 passengers from the Caribbean. It was the first of many, bringing thousands of new people to Britain. They took all sorts of jobs, including making steel to construct buildings, and mining for coal to feed the factories. Many of them took jobs in the NHS, which at the time was brand new. They also cleaned the streets, and prepared the food that people ate. You could say that these people formed the engine that got Britain going again after the war. Unfortunately, many of these newcomers experienced discrimination. That's when you're treated badly because of something that you can't change about yourself, such as your skin colour or your age. Before this time, Britain was overwhelmingly white. The people from the Caribbean were black, and many people in white Britain thought that they were not as good as them. They didn't want them in the country, they didn't want them in their jobs, and they didn't want them to be their neighbours. Because of this, many of the Afro-Caribbean British people that came to Britain to help found it difficult to find a place to live, and were paid less than their white colleagues. This was not the first time that Britain received newcomers to the country. However, it was the first time in recent history that a massive amount of non-white people arrived, and this was the start of a multicultural, multi-ethnic Britain that we see today. In the years that followed, further waves of people came from Europe and Asia and created a rich tapestry of different ideas, food, music, art, and culture. Oh, I promised to let you know why they were called the Windrush generation. Well, it's simply the name of that first ship that brought the 1,000 people from the Caribbean in 1948. The HMS Windrush. A final footnote to this story. I spoke earlier in the video about the discrimination that Afro-Caribbeans experienced when they arrived in Britain. While the amount of prejudice has gone down in the years since, Black and Asian British people still experience racism today. That is why Black History Month exists, and why it is important to celebrate the contribution that they have made to our country. That's what I want to do in this video. Learn more by checking out my Black History playlist in the description below.